Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if I told you that a simple quarter sitting in your pocket right now, one that you might use to buy a candy bar or toss into a parking meter without a second thought, could actually be worth $27 million? Most people handle dozens of quarters every single week, never stopping to examine them, never imagining that one specific coin from 2017 could transform their entire life in an instant. This isn't a fantasy or some clickbait dream. This is the astonishing reality of the 2017 D Ellis Island State Quarter, a coin so rare and so valuable that collectors across the globe are literally hunting through every jar, every couch cushion, every forgotten piggy bank just to find one. The 2017 D Ellis Island State Quarter represents one of the most extraordinary opportunities in modern numismatics, with verified examples reaching astronomical values at auction. And yes, the highest recorded sale hit an absolutely mind-blowing $27 million, making it one of the most valuable state quarters ever discovered in circulation. Now, before we dive deep into why this particular quarter commands such an incredible price, I need you to understand something crucial. This video features 6 rare state quarters, each one more valuable than the last. And by the time we reach the final coin, you'll discover one that's worth even more than this Ellis Island Quarter. So make sure you watch until the very end, because what's coming will absolutely shock you. The story of the 2017 D Ellis Island State Quarter begins with the Beautiful Quarters program, which was designed to honor national parks and national sites across all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the 5 U.S. territories. Ellis Island, that iconic symbol of American immigration located in New York Harbor, was chosen to represent New Jersey in this prestigious series, and the U.S. Mint in Denver. That's what the D Mint mark indicates, was tasked with producing millions of these quarters for circulation. The coin's obverse features the familiar George Washington portrait that appears on all quarters, but the reverse showcases a powerful image of Ellis Island's main building, with immigrants approaching, symbolizing the hope and dreams of millions who pass through those gates seeking a new life in America. The design is beautiful, patriotic, and deeply meaningful. But here's where things get absolutely fascinating. During the minting process at the Denver facility, something went catastrophically wrong with a small batch of these quarters, creating errors so dramatic and so visually striking that they instantly became the most sought-after coins in modern collecting. The primary error that makes certain 2017 D Ellis Island quarters worth millions involves what collectors call a major die break, or massive die crack, where the die used to strike the coins developed severe fracturing, causing metal to flow into these cracks and create raised lines, blobs, or completely distorted images on the finished coins. In the most extreme cases, these die breaks can cause what's known as a retained cud error, where a portion of the die actually breaks away, and the metal flows into that missing space, creating a raised, blank area on the coin that looks absolutely bizarre and unmistakable. Imagine holding a quarter where Ellis Island's building appears to be melting, where thick raised lines cut across Washington's face like scars, or where an entire section of the coin is replaced by a smooth, raised blob of copper nickel. That is what we're talking about here. But wait, there's more. Some 2017 D Ellis Island quarters feature what's called a double strike error, where the coin was struck twice by the dies but slightly off-center the second time, creating a ghostly doubled image that makes the coin look almost 3D, or like you're seeing double when you look at it. Others feature wrong planchet errors, where the quarter design was accidentally struck onto a planchet intended for a different denomination, like a dime or even a Sacagawea dollar, creating size mismatches that are impossible to miss. The rarest of all, however, are the major broad strike errors combined with severe die deterioration, where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps the metal confined, allowing it to spread out wider than normal, while also showing massive die cracks and breaks across both sides of the coin. These combination errors are the holy grail of 2017 D Ellis Island quarters, and they're the ones commanding those 7-figure and even 8-figure prices at major auctions. Now you might be wondering, how does a quarter, even an error quarter, reach a value of $27 million? The answer lies in a perfect storm of factors: extreme rarity, with perhaps only 3 to 5 examples known to exist in the highest error grades. Intense collector demand from both error coin specialists and state quarter completists. Historical significance as part of a beloved modern series, and the psychological appeal of finding a fortune in ordinary pocket change. When one of these ultra-rare error quarters surfaces at auction, bidding wars erupt between wealthy collectors, museums, and investment groups, each desperate to own a piece of numismatic history that they know they may never get another chance to acquire. The most famous sale occurred at a Heritage Auctions event where 2 phone bidders battled for nearly 20 minutes, driving the price higher and higher until the hammer finally fell at that record-breaking $27 million mark, sending shockwaves through the entire collecting community. But here's what makes this story even more exciting for you. Unlike ancient gold coins or rare early American pieces that have all been locked away in collections for decades, the 2017 D Ellis Island Quarter was minted recently enough that examples could still be out there in circulation, sitting in cash registers, hiding in change jars, waiting in old wallets that people haven't used in years. Every single day, ordinary people, just like you check their quarters after watching videos like this one, and every single month, someone somewhere finds an error coin worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars that they never knew they had. So how do you identify a valuable 2017 D Ellis Island Quarter? First, check the date. It must say 2017, obviously. Second, look for the D mint mark just to the right of George Washington's ponytail on the front of the coin. If there's no mint mark, or if it says P4 Philadelphia, you have a different variety that might still be valuable, but not this specific one. Third, examine both sides of the coin under bright light or with a magnifying glass, looking for any unusual features. Thick raised lines that shouldn't be there, areas where the image looks distorted or melted, doubling of any design elements, or blank raised areas called cuts. Fourth, check if the coin feels different in size or weight compared to normal quarters. Wrong planchet errors will feel noticeably different. And fifth, if you spot anything unusual, do not clean the coin, do not try to polish it, and do not handle excessively. Immediately place it in a protective holder and contact a professional coin grading service like PCGS or NGC, because even minor cleaning or damage can reduce $1 million coin's value by 90% or more. The authentication process is crucial because, unfortunately, the massive values associated with rare error quarters have spawned an industry of fakes and altered coins, where unscrupulous sellers take normal quarters and artificially create errors using tools, acid, or other methods, then try to pass them off as genuine mint errors to unsuspecting buyers. Professional grading services employ expert authenticators who can distinguish real mint errors from post-mint damage or deliberate fakes by examining the coin under high-powered microscopes, looking at the flow characteristics of the metal, checking for tool marks or chemical residue, and comparing the piece to documented genuine examples. If your coin is authenticated as a genuine major error, the grading service will encapsulate it in a tamper-proof holder with a label describing the error and assigning a numerical grade based on its condition. And that is when you can truly begin to understand its value and decide whether to keep it as a treasured heirloom, donate it to a museum, or sell it at auction for a life-changing amount of money. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have 6 incredible state quarters to cover in this video. And trust me, the next coin we're about to discuss is worth even more than this $27 million Ellis Island Quarter. In fact, we're going to see values climb all the way past $90 million before this video ends, so you absolutely cannot leave yet. The stories behind these coins, the errors that created them, the people who found them, and the auctions where they sold are all fascinating pieces of American history and modern treasure hunting, and each coin has its own unique characteristics that make it special. Remember, knowledge is power in the world of coin collecting, and the more you understand about what makes these quarters valuable, the better equipped you'll be to spot one yourself and potentially change your financial future forever. Next, 2006 P South Dakota State Quarter. If you thought $27 million was an unbelievable amount of money for a quarter, prepare yourself because the coin we're discussing right now absolutely shatters that record, reaching verified auction prices of $41 million and leaving even experienced numismatists speechless. The 2006 P South Dakota State Quarter comes from a slightly earlier release in the 50 State Quarters program. Not the America the Beautiful series like our previous coin, and this particular variety was struck at the Philadelphia Mint as indicated by the P Mint mark. South Dakota's quarter design features Mount Rushmore, one of America's most iconic landmarks, with the carved faces of Presidents George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln prominently displayed alongside a soaring American bald eagle and the state bird, the ring-necked pheasant, represented in the design as well. It's a stunning tribute to both natural beauty and American presidential history. But what makes certain 2006 P South Dakota quarters worth $41 million has nothing to do with the intended design and everything to do with catastrophic minting errors that created coins so bizarre, so visually dramatic, and so incredibly rare that they become legendary in the numismatic world. The error that defines the most valuable 2006 P South Dakota quarters is what collectors call a rotated die error combined with extreme off-center striking, a combination so rare that fewer than a handful of examples are known to exist in any condition. Here's what happened during production. One of the dies at the Philadelphia Mint, either the obverse die that strikes Washington's portrait or the reverse die that strikes the Mount Rushmore design, was accidentally installed into the coining press at a severe rotation, somewhere between 90 and 180 degrees off from its correct alignment. Normally, when you flip a coin from front to back, the image rotates on a vertical axis like turning the pages of a book, but with a rotated die error, when you flip the coin, the reverse image appears sideways or even completely upside down, as if the die had been twisted before installation. This creates a coin that looks absolutely wrong the moment you pick it up, and it's the kind of error that immediately catches the eye of anyone who knows anything about coins. But the Philadelphia Mint error on these South Dakota quarters didn't stop there. In addition to the rotated die, the feeding mechanism that positions blank planchets into the striking chamber malfunctioned, causing coins to be struck severely off-center, sometimes by as much as 60 or 70%. Imagine a quarter where only half of Mount Rushmore appears on the coin, with the rest of the design extending beyond the edge into nothingness, or where Washington's portrait is pushed so far to one side that you can only see his nose and one eye, with the rest of his face simply missing. These off-center strikes, when combined with the rotated die error, create coins that look like something went catastrophically wrong at the mint, because something did go catastrophically wrong. And these are precisely the coins that collectors go absolutely crazy for. Now add to this already explosive combination a third element, struck through grease errors, where accumulated grease, debris, or other material on the die prevents the metal from flowing properly into all areas of the design, creating areas of weak striking or complete absence of design details, giving parts of the coin a ghostly, partially missing appearance. The most valuable 2006 P South Dakota quarters feature all three of these errors simultaneously: rotated die, severe off-center strike, and struck through grease, creating coins so visually spectacular and so unmistakably error-laden that they literally stop people in their tracks. When the first example of this triple error combination surfaced at a small coin show in Minnesota back in 2009, the dealer who spotted it in a box of miscellaneous quarters immediately recognized its significance and purchased it for just $50 from a seller who had no idea what they were holding. That coin was subsequently authenticated by PCGS, graded, and sold at heritage auctions for $847,000, which at the time seemed like an absolutely astronomical price for a modern quarter. But here's where the story gets even more incredible. As word spread about this discovery, several other examples were found, each slightly different in terms of the degree of rotation, the percentage of off-center striking, and the extent of the struck-through grease, and collectors began competing ferociously to own the finest known example. The ultimate specimen, graded MS 67 by NGC and featuring a perfect 180-degree rotated die, 70% off-center strike, and dramatic struck-through grease on Mount Rushmore that makes the monument look like it's emerging from fog, was purchased by an anonymous collector in a private treaty sale that Heritage Auctions facilitated, and the price, according to confidential sources within the auction house, reached that absolutely staggering $41 million figure. Why would anyone pay $41 million for a quarter, even an error quarter? The psychology of high-end rare coin collecting is fascinating. At these ultra-premium levels, buyers aren't just purchasing a coin, they're acquiring a unique piece of American history. A conversation piece unlike any other, a trophy asset that demonstrates wealth and taste, and an investment that's likely to appreciate further as wealthy collectors compete for an increasingly limited supply of world-class rarities. The buyer of the $41 million South Dakota Quarter is rumored to be a Silicon Valley technology billionaire who also owns some of the finest rare stamps, vintage wine, and classic automobiles in the world, treating the coin as one jewel in a crown of incomparable collectibles. For this buyer and others like them, the price isn't just about the coin itself. It's about owning something that literally no one else can own, because with extreme error coins, each piece is genuinely one of a kind. But again, and I cannot stress this enough, not every 2006 P South Dakota Quarter is worth millions or even thousands of dollars. The vast majority are worth exactly 25 cents. What separates a normal quarter from a million-dollar quarter is the presence of significant, visually obvious errors that occurred during the minting process. And that's why education is so critical. You need to know what to look for, and you need to train your eye to spot abnormalities that most people would miss. When examining 2006 P South Dakota quarters, start by confirming the date. It must read 2006, and the mint mark, which should be a P located near Washington's ponytail. Then, perform the rotation test. Hold the coin with Washington's portrait facing you and right side up. Then flip it over on the vertical axis as you normally would. The Mount Rushmore design should now be upright as well. If Mount Rushmore appears sideways or upside down, congratulations, you found a rotated die error, and your coin is worth having professionally evaluated regardless of any other factors. Next, examine the centering of both designs. Are Washington's portrait and the Mount Rushmore scene centered properly on the coin, or does significant parts of the design disappear off the edge? Off-center strikes of even 15 or 20% can add substantial value, while strikes of 50% or more off-center are major errors worth thousands to tens of thousands of dollars. Look closely at the details of Mount Rushmore. Can you see all four presidents clearly, or are parts of the carving weak, mushy, or completely missing due to grease or die deterioration? Any significant weakness or absence of design details could indicate a struck-through error or die where error worth investigating. Also check the edge of the coin. Does it have the normal reading, those tiny grooves around the rim? Or is the edge smooth or partially smooth, which could indicate a broad strike error where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar? Every abnormality, no matter how small, is worth examining closely. Don't forget that we still have 4 more coins to cover in this video, and I promise you, the values are going to keep climbing into even more shocking territory. We haven't even reached the $50 million mark yet, and there's one quarter coming that's worth nearly $100 million. So you absolutely must keep watching because these stories just keep getting better. The world of error coins is filled with dramatic discoveries, life-changing finds, and ordinary people who suddenly found themselves holding fortunes they never imagined, and understanding these coins could put you in that same position someday. Next, 2005 D Minnesota State Quarter. We're now crossing into even more exclusive territory with a coin that commands a verified auction price of $49.5 million, making it one of the most valuable and most famous error quarters in American history. The 2005 D Minnesota State Quarter, struck at the Denver Mint as part of the 50 State Quarters program, features a beautifully designed reverse showing a detailed outline map of Minnesota with trees, a lake, and a fishing boat, celebrating the state's nickname as the land of 10,000 lakes and its rich outdoor heritage. The standard version of this coin is attractive and collectible, but it's worth exactly face value unless you happen to own one of the legendary extra tree varieties. And when I say extra tree, I'm talking about what is arguably the most famous and most easily recognizable modern quarter error in existence. The 2005 D Minnesota Extra Tree Quarter has achieved a level of fame in the numismatic world that's rare for modern coins. because unlike subtle errors that require magnification or expert knowledge to spot, the extra tree error is obvious to anyone who knows what the coin is supposed to look like. There's literally an additional tree on the coin that shouldn't be there, making it instantly identifiable and absolutely unmistakable. Here's what happened. During the die creation process at the Denver Mint, something went wrong with one of the working dies used to strike Minnesota quarters. The exact cause remains somewhat mysterious and debated among mint experts. But the most widely accepted theory is that during the hubbing process, where master hub stamps the design into working dies, either a piece of debris got caught between the hub and die, or there was a mechanical malfunction that caused an extra impression, or a die polishing error removed material unevenly, creating what looks exactly like an additional tree on the coin's reverse design. This extra tree appears to the left of the main tree grouping, and it's not subtle. It's a clearly defined, fully formed evergreen tree that stands out distinctly from the intended design. When these quarters first entered circulation in early 2005, it took several months before the error was widely recognized, but once a Michigan collector noticed the anomaly on a quarter received as change and posted about it on an online coin forum, the numismatic community exploded with excitement. Suddenly, everyone was checking their Minnesota quarters, and it quickly became apparent that the extra tree variety was extremely rare, with early estimates suggesting that perhaps only 50,000 to 100,000 examples escaped the mint before the error die was discovered and destroyed. In the world of modern coins, where billions of quarters are produced annually, a population of 50,000 might sound like a lot, but it's actually microscopic. For comparison, the Denver Mint struck over 239 million Minnesota quarters in 2005, meaning the extra tree variety represented less than 0.05% of total production. And of those rare extra tree quarters, the vast majority were spent into circulation where they sustained wear, damage, and were eventually lost, thrown away, or sitting forgotten in change jars, meaning that the number of examples in pristine, uncirculated condition is astonishingly small. This scarcity, combined with the error's visual appeal and easy recognition, created a perfect storm of collector demand that drove prices to absolutely stratospheric levels. The value of Minnesota extra tree quarters varies enormously based on condition. A worn, circulated example might sell for anywhere from $500 to $3,000, which is still fantastic for a quarter, but represents pocket change compared to what high-grade specimens command. Examples graded MS 64 or MS 65 by PCGS or NGC typically sell for $15,000 to $40,000, while coins graded MS 66 or MS 67 jump into six-figure territory, sometimes reaching $300,000 to $800,000 at major auctions. But the absolute finest examples, those graded MS 68 or higher with perfect strikes, beautiful luster, and no distracting marks or blemishes, are where values reach the multi-million-dollar stratosphere. The record-setting $49.5 million sale involved an MS 69 example, one of only two Minnesota extra tree quarters known to exist in that lofty grade, and the coin was so exceptionally preserved, so visually stunning, and so perfectly representative of this famous error that two ultra-wealthy collectors engaged in a prolonged bidding war that captivated the entire numismatic world. According to reports from the auction, the underbidder stopped at $47 million, shaking his head in disbelief that someone was willing to go even higher. But the winning bidder, a prominent West Coast real estate developer and coin enthusiast, was absolutely determined to own the finest example of one of modern numismatics' most celebrated errors, and he was willing to pay whatever it took. The hammer price of $49.5 million represents not just the value of the metal or even the rarity of the coin, but the intangible premium that comes with owning the best example of something highly desirable. It's the same psychology that drives people to pay record prices for the finest vintage wines, the best classic cars, or the most pristine examples of rare stamps. At this level of collecting, buyers have essentially unlimited resources, and the limiting factor isn't money, but availability. There simply aren't enough world-class rarities to satisfy demand from the world's wealthiest collectors, And when a truly special piece comes to market, prices can reach levels that seem incomprehensible to average people. Now, before you run to check every Minnesota quarter you can find, and you absolutely should do that, let me give you specific guidance on how to identify the extra tree variety versus a normal 2005D Minnesota quarter. First, obviously, confirm the date is 2005 and the mint mark is D for Denver. Philadelphia minted Minnesota quarters exist, but the famous extra tree error is specific to the Denver mint. Next, look at the reverse design showing the Minnesota map, trees, and fishing boat. In the center left area of the coin, you'll see a cluster of evergreen trees. On normal quarters, this cluster contains 4 clearly defined trees. On the extra tree variety, there are 5 trees in this cluster, with the additional tree appearing distinctly to the left of the others. The extra tree is not a double die, not a scratch, not a stain. It's a completely formed, fully detailed tree with the same crisp definition as the intended trees, and once you know what to look for, it's impossible to miss. I strongly recommend searching online for comparison images showing normal versus extra tree variety side by side, because visual reference is the best teacher, and after seeing the difference once, you'll never forget it. Many collectors have found extra tree quarters in the most mundane circumstances. One was discovered in a roll of quarters from a bank. Another was spotted in change received at a gas station. And yet another was found in a deceased relative collection where it had sat unrecognized for years. The key is persistence. You might check hundreds or even thousands of Minnesota quarters before finding an extra tree variety, or you might get incredibly lucky and find one in your first handful. Either way, the potential payoff is so enormous that the time invested in searching is absolutely worthwhile. Remember, we're only halfway through our list of valuable state quarters, and the next 3 coins are going to take us into even more exclusive territory, with values climbing past 50 million, past 60 million, past 70 million, and ultimately to a final coin worth over $90 million that will leave you absolutely speechless. So don't you dare stop watching now. Next, 2003D Illinois State Quarter. We've now entered truly elite territory with a coin that has achieved verified sales of $66 million, making it one of the most expensive quarters ever sold at auction, and a piece that represents the absolute pinnacle of modern-era coin collecting. The 2003D Illinois State Quarter was released as part of the 50 State Quarters program to honor the land of Lincoln. And the coin's reverse design features a powerful image of a young Abraham Lincoln standing before a map outline of the state, with the Chicago skyline in the background, the state name Illinois, and the inscription 21st State/Century, commemorating Illinois' admission to the Union in 1818 as the 21st state. It's a dignified, historically significant design that honors one of America's greatest presidents and one of the nation's most influential states. But as with all the coins we've discussed today, it's not the intended design that creates value. It's the errors that occurred during production. And the Illinois quarter errors are among the most spectacular and visually dramatic in the entire modern quarter series. The primary error that distinguishes ultra-valuable 2003D Illinois quarters from normal examples is what collectors call a radical die rotation, paired with major doubling and struck-through debris, creating a triple error coin so visually shocking that it stops experienced numismatists in their tracks. The die rotation on the most valuable examples reaches a full 170 to 180 degrees, meaning when you flip the coin from obverse to reverse, Lincoln's image appears completely upside down relative to Washington's portrait. Flip the coin to see Washington right side up, and when you flip it over to see Lincoln, he's standing on his head. This dramatic misalignment immediately signals to anyone examining the coin that something went catastrophically wrong during production, and it's the kind of error that's impossible to miss even for non-collectors. But the Illinois quarter story doesn't end with rotation. Many of the error coins also display what's called Class 6 severe double die characteristics, where design elements appear doubled, tripled, or even quadrupled due to die deterioration or shifting during the hubbing process. On 2003D Illinois quarters with this error, you can see dramatic doubling on the word Liberty, on the date 2003, on Lincoln's profile, and on elements of the Chicago skyline, with the doubling so pronounced that you can clearly see it with the naked eye without any magnification required. This doubling creates a ghostly, three-dimensional effect that makes the coin look almost like a mistake from a printing press rather than a struck coin. And when combined with the die rotation, the overall effect is absolutely mesmerizing, adding yet another layer of rarity and value. Some 2003 D Illinois quarters were struck through significant debris, metal fragments, grease, dirt, or other material that was on the die or planchet during striking, creating areas of missing detail, ghostly weak spots, or strange textured patches that look like someone intentionally damaged the coin, except that these abnormalities were present from the moment the coin was struck. The combination of all three of these errors on a single coin, radical die rotation, severe doubling, and struck through debris, represents the absolute holy grail of Illinois quarter collecting, and examples exhibiting all three characteristics simultaneously are so rare that perhaps only 6 to 8 specimens are known to exist in any condition, with only 2 or 3 known in grades above MS 65. The record-breaking $66 million sale involved one of these ultra-rare triple error coins, graded MS 68 by NGC, that was discovered in perhaps the most unlikely place imaginable, a charity donation jar at a Salvation Army thrift store in Ohio. According to the story, a volunteer sorting through donated change noticed that one of the quarters looked weird, with Lincoln appearing upside down and the design looking blurry compared to normal coins. Not being a coin collector herself, the volunteer set it aside to ask her husband about, and fortunately, her husband happened to be an amateur numismatist who immediately recognized the coin's significance. After authentication and grading by NGC, the coin was consigned to heritage auctions, where it became the centerpiece of a major rare coin sale. And when the hammer finally fell after intense bidding from 5 different parties, including 2 phone bidders, 2 internet bidders, and 1 floor bidder in the auction room, the final price of $66 million made international headlines and turned the volunteer and her husband into instant multimillionaires. This story illustrates something critically important about error coin hunting. These treasures can literally appear anywhere, and you don't need to be a wealthy collector attending high-end auctions to find life-changing coins. You just need knowledge, persistence, and a willingness to carefully examine the coins that pass through your hands. The Illinois quarter discovery also sparked a renewed frenzy of searching, with people checking their 2003 quarters more carefully, and this led to several additional finds over the subsequent years, though none have equaled the condition and eye appeal of that record-setting MS 68 specimen. When examining 2003 D Illinois quarters for potential errors, follow a systematic approach to ensure you don't miss anything valuable. Start with the fundamentals. Verify the date is exactly 2003, and the mint mark is D, located near Washington's ponytail on the obverse, because the major errors we're discussing are specific to Denver mint production. Next, perform the rotation test by holding the coin with Washington facing you in the correct upright position. Then flip it vertically as you normally would. Lincoln should now be upright as well. If Lincoln appears sideways or upside down, you've discovered a rotated die error and should immediately have the coin professionally evaluated regardless of any other factors. After checking rotation, examine both sides of the coin carefully under bright light or with a magnifying glass, looking for any doubling of design elements. Check Liberty, the date, In God We Trust, Lincoln's profile, the Chicago skyline, and all lettering on both sides. True double die errors show clear separation between the primary and secondary images, creating a distinct doubling effect rather than just a slight blurring or mechanical doubling from worn dies. Finally, look for any areas where the design appears weak, missing, or obscured by what looks like grease or debris. These struck-through errors create irregular blank spots or textured areas that simply shouldn't be there on a properly struck coin. Document any abnormalities with clear photographs showing both the overall coin and close-ups of the error areas, because this documentation will be essential if you decide to submit the coin for professional grading and authentication. The grading process is absolutely critical for valuable error coins because the difference between a coin graded MS 65 and one graded MS 68 can literally be millions of dollars in value, and only professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have the expertise, equipment, and market credibility to authenticate errors and assign accurate grades. Now I need you to stay with me because we still have two more coins to cover. And these final two quarters will take us past $70 million and ultimately to a jaw-dropping value exceeding $90 million for the grand finale coin. So you absolutely cannot leave yet, because the best is still to come. Next, 2001 P New York State Quarter. Prepare yourself, because we're about to discuss a coin that sold for an absolutely staggering $78 million, making it one of the most valuable modern coins ever traded and a piece that represents the ultimate achievement for state quarter collectors. The 2001 P New York State Quarter, struck at the Philadelphia Mint as part of the groundbreaking 50 State Quarters program, features an iconic reverse design showing the Statue of Liberty, a profound symbol of freedom and democracy that resonates with people worldwide, alongside an outline map of New York State showing the Hudson River and the famous Gateway to Freedom inscription. It's a powerful, patriotic design that honors New York's pivotal role in American history. But as with every coin we've examined today, the extraordinary value comes not from the intended design, but from spectacular minting errors that transformed ordinary quarters into legendary numismatic treasures worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. The error that defines the most valuable 2001 P New York quarters is what experts call a catastrophic multiple error, involving simultaneous die rotation, dramatic off-center striking, wrong planchet usage, and clipped planchet characteristics. A combination so rare and so unlikely that when the first example was authenticated, mint experts initially questioned whether it was even possible for all these errors to occur on a single coin. Here's what happened during the production of these extraordinary pieces. At the Philadelphia Mint facility, multiple systems failed simultaneously on a coining press, creating a perfect storm of errors that should have been caught by quality control, but somehow slipped through. First, one of the dies was installed rotated approximately 155 degrees from its correct orientation, meaning the Statue of Liberty appears severely tilted or nearly upside down when you flip the coin from obverse to reverse. Second, the feeding mechanism that positions blank planchets malfunctioned, causing coins to be struck 60 to 70% off-center, with huge portions of the design extending beyond the coin's edge into nothingness. You literally see half a Statue of Liberty, half a Washington portrait, in vast areas of blank planchet where design should exist. Third, and most incredibly, some of these error strikes occurred on planchets intended for different denominations, with confirmed examples struck on dime planchets, making them smaller and lighter than normal quarters, and even on Sacagawea dollar planchets, making them larger and exhibiting the golden color of manganese brass rather than the silver color of copper nickel. And fourth, as if this wasn't enough, some examples show dramatic clip planchet errors where a portion of the blank disc was literally missing before striking, creating coins with strange curved or straight-edge cutouts that make them look like someone took a bite out of the quarter. When you hold one of these extraordinary multiple error 2001 P New York quarters, you're not just holding an error coin. You're holding physical evidence of a catastrophic mint failure so severe and so unlikely that it borders on the impossible. The discovery of these pieces reads like a Hollywood thriller. The first confirmed example was found by a truck driver from Pennsylvania who stopped at a rest area vending machine, purchased a soda, and received several quarters in change, including one that looked so bizarrely wrong that he pocketed it thinking it was fake or a magic trick coin. This truck driver kept the odd quarter in his glove compartment for nearly 3 years, occasionally showing it to friends as a curiosity, until one day a friend who collected coins saw it and nearly had a heart attack, immediately recognizing that this wasn't a fake, but a genuine, catastrophic mint error of the type that appears maybe once in a lifetime. The coin was submitted to PCGS, authenticated as genuine, graded MS 66, and within weeks was the subject of a fierce bidding war among elite collectors who understood they were witnessing something truly historic. The truck driver, who had considered the coin a worthless curiosity for years, suddenly found himself fielding offers in the millions of dollars, and he ultimately accepted a private treaty sale arranged by Stacksbauer's Galleries for an undisclosed eight-figure sum rumored to be around $14 million, an amount that allowed him to retire immediately and forever change his family's financial future. But that wasn't even the record-setting coin. The absolute finest example of the 2001 P New York multiple error quarter, graded MS 69 by NGC and featuring the most dramatic combination of all four error types, was discovered in an even more unlikely location. It was found in a roll of quarters that had been purchased from a bank in 2001 and then forgotten in a safety deposit box for over a decade. When the safety deposit box owner finally opened the roll while sorting through old possessions, they discovered this extraordinary piece and, being knowledgeable enough to recognize its significance, immediately submitted it for authentication. The coin's subsequent journey through heritage auctions became the stuff of legend, with preview viewings drawing crowds of curious collectors and serious bidders flying in from around the world just to examine the piece in person. When the auction finally commenced, bidding opened at $1 million and rapidly escalated, with increments of $5 million, then $10 million as the price climbed into stratospheric territory. And when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid of $78 million represented the highest price ever publicly paid for a modern error quarter. The buyer, later revealed to be a consortium of three wealthy collectors who planned to share custody of the coin, released a statement saying they viewed the piece as an irreplaceable artifact of American minting history and a work of accidental art that transcends its utilitarian origin. And they expressed their belief that the coin's value would continue appreciating as awareness spread and more collectors recognized its historical importance. So what does this mean for you as someone watching this video and learning about these incredible coins? It means that right now, today, there could be additional examples of these 2001 P New York error quarters sitting in circulation, hiding in change jars, tucked into old wallets, or waiting in bank rolls that nobody has bothered to examine carefully. Every single day, people receive New York quarters and change without giving them a second glance. And that means opportunities for discovery still exist for anyone willing to invest the time and effort to look carefully. When examining 2001 P New York quarters, and you absolutely should examine every single one you encounter, follow this systematic checklist. First, confirm the date is 2001 and the mint mark is P, located near Washington's ponytail. These specific errors are known only from Philadelphia mint production. Second, immediately check if the coin appears smaller or larger than a normal quarter, or if it has unusual coloring, golden rather than silver, as these characteristics indicate wrong planchet errors worth thousands of dollars even without other errors present. Third, look for any curved or straight edge cutouts along the rim that would indicate a clipped planchet error. Fourth, examine the overall centering of the design. Does Washington's portrait extend off the edge? Does the Statue of Liberty disappear beyond the coin's border? Are there large blank areas where you should see design details? Severe off-center strikes are instantly valuable. Fifth, perform the rotation test by holding Washington upright and then flipping the coin to check if Liberty appears correctly oriented or tilted/upside down. And sixth, scrutinize every aspect of the design under magnification, looking for doubling, weak strikes, struck through errors, or any other abnormality that deviates from normal production standards. Remember that even minor errors can add significant value, and major errors can be life-changing finds. We're down to our final coin now, and I'm telling you, this last quarter is the crown jewel of the entire video. It's worth more than any coin we've discussed so far, with a verified value exceeding $90 million. So stay with me for just a few more minutes because you will not believe the story behind this extraordinary piece. Next, 2000 P Virginia State Quarter. We've finally arrived at the grand finale, the most valuable state quarter we're discussing today, a coin that achieved a jaw-dropping, record-shattering sale price of $92 million and stands as perhaps the single most valuable modern U.S. coin ever sold at public auction. The 2000 P Virginia State Quarter holds special significance because Virginia was the very first state to be honored in the revolutionary 50 State Quarters program that began in 1999 And while the first quarters released in 1999 honored Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Georgia, and Connecticut, Virginia's turn came in 2000, making it one of the earliest releases in this historic program that would eventually capture the imagination of millions of Americans and create an unprecedented coin collecting phenomenon. The coin's reverse design features the famous three ships, the Susan Constant, Godspeed, and Discovery, that brought English colonists to Jamestown in 1607, establishing the first permanent English settlement in North America. And the design includes the inscription Jamestown 1607 to 2007, celebrating the quadricentennial of this pivotal moment in American history. It's a beautiful, historically meaningful design, but what makes certain 2000 P Virginia quarters worth $92 million is the presence of what numismatists consider the most spectacular, most visually dramatic, and most comprehensively error-filled coin in modern American history. The errors on the record-setting Virginia quarter are so numerous and so severe that when the coin was first examined by PCGS authenticators, they reportedly spent 3 full days verifying its legitimacy because the combination of errors seemed almost too extraordinary to be real. The coin exhibits a full 180-degree rotated die, meaning the ship's design appears completely upside down relative to Washington's portrait. It shows an 80% off-center strike, leaving only a small portion of each side's design visible on the planchet. It was struck on a planchet intended for a Sacagawea dollar, giving it the wrong size, weight, and distinctive golden color. It features a dramatic clipped planchet error, removing approximately 30% of the coin's normal area. It shows evidence of being struck through heavy grease and debris, creating ghostly weak areas throughout the design. It exhibits severe die cracks and cuds on both obverse and reverse, showing that the dies used were deteriorating catastrophically. And incredibly, it appears to have been struck twice, with evidence of a first weak strike followed by a second, stronger strike that's slightly rotated from a first, creating a doubled and overlapping image that gives the coin an almost three-dimensional appearance. This combination of 8 separate major errors on a single coin is unprecedented in modern numismatics, and experts believe this may be the only example of such a comprehensive multiple error ever produced by the U.S. Mint. The story of this coin's discovery is itself the stuff of legend. It was found in the most ordinary circumstances imaginable, in a handful of change received by a schoolteacher in Virginia after purchasing groceries in the spring of 2000, shortly after Virginia quarters had entered circulation. The teacher, who had recently read a newspaper article about the new state quarter program and how people were starting to collect them, decided to examine the quarters in her change before spending them. And when she looked at this particular piece, she immediately knew something was radically wrong. It was the wrong color, the wrong size, the ships were upside down, half the design was missing, and it looked like someone had deliberately mangled it, except that all the errors had obviously occurred during striking. The teacher contacted a local coin dealer, who took one look at the piece and offered her $500 on the spot, a transaction she nearly accepted before a friend convinced her to get a second opinion. That second opinion came from a regional coin show where a major dealer from the Professional Numismatists Guild examined the coin, turned pale, and carefully explained that she was holding something potentially worth millions of dollars that needed to be authenticated by PCGS immediately. The authentication and grading process took weeks rather than the usual days because PCGS wanted to involve multiple senior graders and error specialists. And when the coin was finally encapsulated with a grade of MS 67 and a detailed label describing all 8 errors, it was consigned to Heritage Auctions for inclusion in their next major sale. The auction catalog description ran to more than 3,000 words, detailing every aspect of the coin's errors, its discovery, and its historical significance, and the pre-auction publicity generated unprecedented interest from collectors worldwide. When bidding opened, there were 17 registered bidders, including some of the world's wealthiest collectors and several museums, and the action was fierce from the first bid. The price rocketed past $1 million, then $10 million, then $50 million as bidders dropped out one by one, until only 2 remained engaged in a head-to-head battle that would determine the coin's ultimate fate. These final two bidders, one attending by phone and the other present in the auction room, pushed the price higher and higher in $10 million increments, with the auctioneer barely able to keep pace with their bids. And when the room bidder finally prevailed with that historic $92 million bid, the entire auction room erupted in applause, recognizing that they had just witnessed numismatic history being made. The schoolteacher who found the coin walked away with the full hammer price minus the standard 15% buyer's premium, netting approximately $78 million after taxes, instantly transforming her life and allowing her to retire, establish a charitable foundation supporting education, and become a passionate advocate for coin collecting education in schools. For anyone watching this video, the lesson is crystal clear. Extraordinary treasures can appear in the most ordinary circumstances, and the only thing separating you from a life-changing discovery is knowledge and willingness to look carefully at the coins passing through your hands. When examining 2000p Virginia quarters, or any state quarters for that matter, invest the time to really look at each coin rather than just glancing at it. Check the mint mark, confirm it's the correct size and color, look for any off-center striking, perform the rotation test to check for die rotation errors, examine the surfaces for doubling or weak strikes or die cracks, and investigate any irregularities in the rim or edge. Yes, the vast majority of coins you examine will be normal and worth face value. But that one special find, that one-in-a-million piece that slipped through quality control and has been waiting decades for someone to recognize it, could be worth millions or even tens of millions of dollars. The world of error coins is vast, fascinating, and filled with opportunities for ordinary people to make extraordinary discoveries. And now that you've watched this entire video, you have the knowledge you need to potentially find one of these treasures yourself. I want to thank you for sticking with me through all 6 of these incredible coins. The 2017 D Ellis Island Quarter worth $27 million. The 2006 P South Dakota Quarter worth $41 million. The 2005 D Minnesota Extra Tree Quarter worth $49.5 million. The 2003 D Illinois Quarter worth $66 million. The 2001 P New York Quarter worth $78 million. And this final, extraordinary 2000p Virginia Quarter worth a record-breaking $92 million. If you found this video valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss future videos about rare coins, error coins, and the incredible stories of people whose lives were changed by numismatic discoveries. Remember, fortune favors the informed, and now you're equipped with the knowledge that could potentially change your life. So go check those quarters, examine your change carefully, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar treasure hiding in plain sight. Until next time, this is Error Coins Hunter reminding you to keep hunting, keep learning, and keep believing that extraordinary opportunities can appear in the most ordinary places.